So here's a little update on my garden for 2022. I've kind of been an advocate of this Ruth Stout method. However, I do not put the cardboard down on top of the earth and then cover it with hay. I've only used hay, no cardboard. I put down what I thought was adequate, but there are some spots that are showing weed and grass growth through it, so obviously I did not put enough down. What I really wanted this year was a boatload of tomatoes, so I have a boatload of tomatoes. A lot of flowers. Tomatoes are just starting to develop from the flowers. And I built this fenced in area because last year I was lazy and the garden was decimated by deer, rabbits, and so forth. So this year, so far, it's been pretty good to go. Right on top of the soil that was actually rototilled last year, I put one 4x5 round bale of hay and let it, kind of disintegrate into the soil. And it's kind of amazing because the dirt underneath the hay is very loose and fluffy. Kind of like the same, this is the New York house, and it's kind of like the same as in the PA house. But next year what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the horse manure compost that I've been stockpiling, and I'm going to put that in the garden after everything in here dies back. Then I will cover that with another round bale of hay, which I already have here. So it's in the process of composting as we speak. But I've got several varieties of tomato, and there unfortunately are more flowers than there are tomatoes, but we still have several months of growing time left. It has not rained here, but maybe 3 times in the last 2 months. So I am watering it, although one of the touts about the Ruth Stout method is that the hay retains the moisture below ground. That actually is true, but with the lack of rain that we've had, I feel that, I'm not overwatering, but I am definitely watering more than you would on a normal year. This is where I had my peas and beans, and I have traps out here because the voles have dug underneath my fence, and they took out pretty much all of my sugar peas, which really irritated me because those are just crunchy and delicious. So I had this planter when I was building fire engines, and some plumbing for a deck gun came in this. It's probably a foot by 6 foot. So I filled it with soil, and I planted some new peas and beans in here, and some potatoes. And they seem to be doing well. Believe it or not, these have only been in here a couple of weeks. So I'm kind of optimistic that it's going to be good to go. Another above ground potato container. I think this is a 30-gallon. And there are russets and golden potatoes in here. The russets are kind of dying back. And it's like Christmas. You dig underground and you find all kinds of goodies. I have actually harvested some of the potatoes out of here, but I didn't get crazy and flip it. This is a 50-gallon container. You can't see any of the container, but I bought some sweet potato shoes off of a local farmer, and hopefully these are really going to do well. You can eat the leaves off of these. You put them in salads and soups and stews and so forth. And we've been eating the leaves. I've filled it up probably a month after I planted them. You know, topped off the soil, that is, to get closer to the top of the container. So we'll see how this works out. Over here, I have some tomatoes that were kind of leftovers that I just randomly planted. Some peppers. These are banana peppers, and we actually just picked half a dozen or so off of these plants yesterday. There's some more here growing in these containers, and they're not stellar. I never have good luck growing peppers. We bought these strawberries, and they're the Evergrow, and we've actually have had quite a few strawberries off of these couple of plants. And they have flowers on them all the time, which is really cool. And these are supposed to be patio tomatoes that you grow in pots. So they are growing. Nothing to brag about, but they're growing. We bought several kinds of lettuce. Plant it right in the ground. I actually just cut a bunch of this back yesterday because I made what I call a breakfast dinner, and I may do a video on that because I think people would really like that. And then some kale. And these kale plants here, the green ones, these voles chewed right to the ground, but they're pretty resilient and they're coming back. And some more, I think this is called Russian red, the kale. Some eggplant, regular eggplant, finger eggplant. Not doing super crazy good, I would say. But yeah, the tomatoes are, I have hope. Let's put it that way. I have hope. I've picked quite a few cucumbers already, which I put against the fence line here. There's a bunch of babies in here yet. So we'll see how this turns out. And then I have our favorite spaghetti squash, acorn squash, and summer squash. Although the summer squash, when I sprouted these seeds early spring, I had a problem in the barn. They were being eaten by chipmunks or whatever, and I moved everything around and I lost place. I had everything labeled so that I knew what I was growing, but yeah, I lost place, so I'm not sure what the heck I have out here anymore. Another cucumber that's not really doing well. See, the leaves are kind of yellowing. But the spaghetti squash, there's a zillion of them out here. A couple of different types. And these are some kind of wax zucchini. I don't even, again, I got screwed up when I had to move everything, but I've got all these zucchini growing. Spaghetti squash, spaghetti squash, spaghetti squash. And so far I've picked half a dozen zucchini that weighed like 2.5, 3 pounds each. So there's a couple of big ones back there. You probably can't see it. It's hard to see through all the leafage. But there's 3 here. More spaghetti squash. And I do have a bunch of these acorn squash, which I absolutely adore. They're delicious, but I don't really have a lot of them on the vine. My beehives aren't doing very good this year. I had wax moths in one of them. The other one starved to death over the winter, so. But yeah, there's zucchini, more spaghetti squash, another zucchini, another spaghetti squash. And I have a lot more weeds than I'd hoped for. And unfortunately, my fenced-in area here is only 16 by 40. I wanted to plant corn and a bunch of other kind of things, but I just didn't have the space. And yeah, you see all the weeds growing down here. It's because the hay was too thin. It wasn't thick enough to smother them out. But I do have a remedy for that for next year, as I said. We had the ducks in here in early spring, and the duck food was sunflower seeds. So there's a bunch of sunflowers in here. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let them grow. I'm not going to tear them out. That's kind of pointless. But yeah, you can see all the flowers on the tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes here. So we'll see what happens. But every year it seems to be the same thing with me. I just run out of time to do it properly. And I'm kind of at nature's whim. But I will attest that the Ruth Stout method is definitely a winner. The soil under here, as I said, is soft, fluffy, and it should be very conducive to root growth. And the ducks are quacking up. But whatever the garden gives this year, I'll take. And hopefully we don't get a frost until really late this year, because I foresee a boatload, a ton of tomatoes, which is what I really wanted. I love canning green tomatoes, eating red tomatoes, and we'll kind of keep, y'all informed about what's going on here. So just a quick video, wanted to share our garden experience for 2022. And you guys have an incredible weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care.